which is just enough even after the food to get the job done. And Chris Kvartek wins game number 3.
He has 4 spells just locked up in his hand because of his mana issues. And game number 1 goes to Martin Juza. And here we go. Stomp to Paulo Vitor Rosa.
Hi everyone, Rich Hagan here, welcoming you to episode 4 of Profiles. Today we delve into everyone's favourite 40-card format, Limited, in the company of 3 masters of draft. New kid on the MPL block, Chris Kvartek, Hall of Famer Martin Juza, and fellow draft master Marcio Carvalho. So let's get to it and show the love for Limited. True underdog, Chris Kvartek may be new to the MPL, but he behaves like a savvy veteran. He's got a meticulous approach from testing to staying hydrated to his support network that has led to a whirlwind rise. He opened last year with a top 8 finish at Mythic Championship 2 in London and followed that up by qualifying for a string of arena events, culminating in another top 8 at Mythic Championship 7, which earned him a spot in the MPL. Chris Kvartek, welcome to Profiles. How did you get into Magic?
Pretty simple. I just fell in love with green creatures after both my brothers taught me how to play when I was like 6. And from there I kept playing and got the point. Yeah.
That is a very, very young age to be tangling with the game Magic. Smart family?
Yeah, I'm definitely the dumbest of my 3 brothers, but they're both very, very smart. So.
Wow. That's a scary prospect. All right. So, green creatures, have they always been your thing?
Oh yeah, since day one. But I played the bad ones to start with, not the Line of War Elves.
Oh, okay. Not the value and utility and things, but the things that took you 74 turns to cast a giant thing.
Oh yeah, die to an unsummon. That's the name of the game.
Oh, now you see, Unsummon, that's a proper Magic card. Yeah. I've got no sympathy for you at all, I'm afraid. So you've been playing for a long time, but competitively, we've come to know you over a relatively short period of time. How have you dealt with that transition to suddenly being one of the best players in the game?
I mean, it's a really interesting situation. Fortunately, I have a really good support network and friends. I have my girlfriend Rachel and my best friend, testing partner Robert Lee. I feel like they help keep me grounded. I try not to let it go to my head and really not try to get overwhelmed by the idea of I need to perform at each event. It's kind of like it's the same game as Magic as it was before. Just trying to have fun, trying to learn, trying to get better, and hopefully the wins come with that type thing.
You are one of the MPL members who's on record as saying, I think you describe yourself as an aspiring dietitian, nutritionist. Now, where does Magic fit into your life then? Is this something that we only get you for the next 12 months, 18 months before life moves on? Or are you with us for the long haul if you can keep at it?
I mean, I'm hoping to be in for the long haul. I mean, it'd be lovely to just keep doing this, have a nice master's degree lying on the side, just as like a nice safety net. That'd be the goal. I mean, I love playing Magic professionally. This is the dream. This is fantastic.
You had 2 Mythic Championship top 8s last season, but they were very, very different, not least in terms of the structure of the events, because the first one, it's in London, it's 5,000 miles from home or whatever, 3,000 miles, and it's got 500 players. So what were you expecting out of Mythic Championship 2?
I mean, I got destroyed in the first one I played and I went 2-5. So I went in with not the highest expectations, but I feel like I didn't practice the way I wanted to for the first one. So I was just going to go in that I prepared how I wanted to, and I figured it's in London. It was in a lovely city. I was with my girlfriend, so it's like even if I scrubbed out the first day, I mean, it was a win-win. I just get another day of perusing the city then. So I try not to be too hard on myself to perform. I feel like that's when I don't perform.
Let's go to Long Beach. Long Beach and London, not really the same kind of place. Also, the tournament, not really the same kind of tournament. Far fewer players, a very intimate atmosphere, a very quiet atmosphere. Did you feel like you belonged when you were playing at Mythic Championship 7 because of your London experiences and the rest of the season?
I mean, I went in not lying to myself that I was going to be one of the best players there, because I certainly wasn't. But I had liked... I feel like leading up to the event, I kind of didn't have the best mindset, where I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I wasn't having the most fun preparing for it, which was one of the first times ever. So it just, when I came into the event, I was just happy to be playing a deck I liked. I played it well, and it panned out well, type thing. So I guess I didn't really consider going in like, I don't know. I try not to worry about the competition around me because sometimes it's a little daunting that Paul is in the same event as you and he seems to win everything. So
I was always going to talk to you about this anyway, but it took you about 30 seconds in before you mentioned Robert Lee and your partner Rachel. You seem, perhaps more than a lot of players, to, in a sense, be part of a team in which you may be the only player, but there are roles for that whole team. Can you talk a bit about that?
yeah, so Robert Lee is my main testing partner. We always shoot ideas off one another, and I feel like he keeps me real. So a lot of times in the past, I've played bad decks, and I feel like that's why I didn't do well at events. So he would kind of keep me in check there, and also just having a good friend at the event to go to after each round, and like joke around about losses, getting destroyed by like a one-outer. It makes the Magic events fun. It always made it so it was, again, a win-win. Even if I lose out of the event, I mean, I'm with some of my best friends just in this really nice city. We can go hang out. It takes a lot of the pressure off for the event. As for Rachel, she doesn't play the game, but that doesn't mean she doesn't get the game in a lot of ways, surprisingly. So she did track competitively in college, and I feel like how we talk about Magic and track, it actually kind of overlaps. So she kind of gets the idea of competition.
This feels like a real missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle that I wasn't aware of, and that makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
So she gets the nerves of it. She gets how I go in. And I'm like, I have to do well at this event. Like I need to do well in the last event. That's why I'm so stressed. If I do well, I get qualified for MPL and Worlds. And she's just like, then what's the point of qualifying for all this if you're not having fun? So and besides the point too of just coming with me to these events, having someone to share the victories with, someone to pat me on the back during the losses. I came in the 5th Mythic Championship. I came in 17th. And I was super distraught afterwards because I don't know, that was like really pivotal points during the race at that time. So it was nice to go back to the hotel room and have someone to pet me up. And then we had a great night after we talked together.
For sure. All right, well, let's turn our attention to away from the MPL and to something that I know you love very, very much, which is Limited. So we've got Ikoria. That's our new set right now. Where do you start? Do you begin when each card is drip-fed out into public? Are you analysing each card one at a time? Or do you wait for the whole set to really start thinking?
Definitely for Limited. I mean, I'm too excited not to be checking the spoilers every day, and a lot of people will think about the constructed applications of the cards, but I feel like I'm like, well, like this card's got to be insane and limited. So as it trickles out, I like to think of the archetypes and what I'm looking to do. A lot of times I'm preparing for an event and it's like, ooh, like this combo, I don't know if other people are thinking about it. So it's probably something I can get if this is earlier in the format type thing. So.
Do you do your own set review? Do you literally card by card rank things, make notes on every card? Are you a methodical player in that way?
Tier lists helped me a lot when I was more new. Getting ratings for cards out of 5, like LSV set reviews, helped a lot. But now it just comes to the point where it's all relative. And I feel like from set to set, there could be a card that's amazing in one and just horrible in another one. So there's not really a point for me to start rating the stuff until I start playing with it. And it's not like I make a physical list and the list is just like in my head.
Okay. So again, then you talk about playing and therefore learning from experience. Are you... again, are you methodical? Do you have notes on your drafts, or is this all just in your head? And today I played 4 or 5 drafts and I learned some stuff. How intricate is your understanding?
I mean, I definitely don't. Surprisingly, I guess I don't really take notes, or I don't even take pictures of decks or drafts after I finish them. I feel like a lot of times I remember the interactions and the archetypes that I like and what I feel like works. And it's just like something, it just kind of comes to me sometimes where like I'll do a draft of the set and then the first deck I draft is just like red white cycling, and I'm just like, there's all the payoff which I thought there was going to be, and a card like Valiant Rescuer is as good as I thought it was going to be, so like of course this deck's going to work. And I mean, it doesn't take, I don't know, I guess it's something like that, and then just like moving on to the different cards and just seeing how they work.
So when you sit down for a session of Arena Draft with other humans, what are you trying to achieve? Apart from having fun, I know you want to have fun, but are you trying to explore new archetypes? Are you trying to refine archetypes? are you trying to play specific archetypes that you don't feel you're comfortable with yet?
A lot of times it's trying to work on the tier list in my head. So that means a lot of times when I'm drafting, I'm more inclined to take rares, especially if it's earlier in the format. I want to see how they play out. I want to see like if they're better than certain commons or uncommons. I feel like every set there's a mythic uncommon, so I'm trying to find that. Usually it's a 2-drop, or in this case it's Zenith Flare. But
okay, yep.
And from there, yeah, it would be like you can kind of evaluate the set card by card before you draft into like, does this archetype have enough 2-drops to be aggressive? Does this archetype have enough card draw to be controlling? But it's for me, it's hard to understand that without like implementing it and trying it out. So I'm more inclined to like force stuff earlier and see what works, and then from there, it's kind of like if it fails repeatedly, then it's not something I'd look to do. But if I'm succeeding over and over, then I'm going to go about drafting that more often.
So when you get down to it, you're playing at the top tables in the world. What is your range when you draft there? Are you a one-deck player, I'd like to do 2 or 3 different things, or I will just go anywhere the draft sends me?
I mean, what's nice about draft is it's always correcting. So there always is going to be a best archetype. Usually it's more drafted. So when it comes down to me, I usually don't look to force archetypes. I think it's a little risky, especially because then you have no control of. I mean, no deck, no matter how powerful the cards are, is going to be good for other players who are drafting at the table. So I'm always looking to be the open archetype with the open colors. I'm kind of boring when it comes to draft. I'm usually just looking to draft a proactive 2-color deck with early creatures and removal, because it's never really failed me throughout any limited format in like the history of the game. It's kind of just like boring, just like that's
no
the goal
fun.
every time. What?
That's fun.
Yeah,
that's the fundamentals. It's like, oh, you didn't do anything on turn 2? I did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did something on 3? I killed it. You did something on 4? I killed it. And then I won. Thanks for playing.
Someone's life total low. I mean, it's the best resource. They can't make the best decisions when they're at 1 life. They got chump block. They can't get card advantage. I'm telling you, put your opponent to 1 more often. You'll win a lot more.
I like that, because it's next door to 0. It turns out. Before we finish on Limited, I want to ask you a couple of Ikoria-specific things. Particularly, a brand new thing in terms of mutate versus a very old thing, cycling. How do you approach learning about those 2 very different things? Something completely new and something theoretically completely old.
So I really don't have to worry about getting enough playables in this set, because I can always just fill out my deck with these, these medium 1-mana draws. It won't be the end of the world. So I could be more aggressive with ditching colors and whatnot. That alone, it totally changes the synergies. And this set is totally different, where, say, a card even like Spell Eater Wolverine, the 3/2 that gets double strike if you have 3 spells. I mean, it's so easy to get 3 spells in your yard right now by the 4th turn, because you're cycling for 1 mana. So you have to reevaluate everything. Mutate was a lot more difficult, if I'm being honest, because the most immediate comparison is Bestow, but you have to be careful, because a lot of times you get kind of destroyed by removal with Mutate. But a lot of the Mutate creatures have card advantage. So it kind of came down in the draft with Mutate, and how I evaluated it was all the humans in the set are worse than they look. So something like Humble Naturalist, the 1/3. I mean, Druid of the Cowl effects, the 1/3 that adds them on, have always been good. It's not as good in this set as it is in other ones. And the second thing was, as like a precaution of getting blown out by removal, I always want my Mutate creature to get me card advantage, whether it's drawing a card off a Dreamtail Heron, or making my opponent's sacred creature off a Chittering Harvester, or all the multicolored ones, besides the red-white one, all get you card advantage. So that's pretty much what I was looking to do with Mutate, and keeping in mind that it gets better in multiples, surprisingly.
2 questions. 1, are you still learning? And 2, if you are, what's the number where you think, yeah, I've probably explored the format?
I'm definitely still learning. There's, I see other people draft, or I'll read other articles. There's archetypes I didn't really try much, like Black White Humans in this set. I never really got, I guess, the cards, the payoff for it to really see it, or maybe I was just missing things. So I don't know if it's really ever a set number where I'm like, I'm ready, but I would say I'm at the point with Ikoria now where I feel like I have almost mastery of the set, where I have full understanding of what I like to do, my evaluation of each card, my favorite archetypes, and my favorite and least favorite colors. And yeah.
Okay, and when that's true, are you sad because there's not a lot more to learn? It's really right on the margins. Are you disappointed that all that knowledge is going to go away when the next set comes out? Or are you just thrilled because you get to do it all again from draft 1 in a few months' time?
Okay, well, I'm definitely thrilled, but even when the set leaves, I feel like a lot of the cards and takeaways stick. Every single set introduces new cards, new mechanics, new abilities. I feel like I take the lessons on to the next set, so I'm never sad. I'm always just excited for the next one.
So, Chris Kvartek, what is your favourite word or phrase in Magic?
Easy. Combat. I love attacking and blocking.
Okay. Your favourite colour in the game?
Green.
Yep.
Not even
Your
close.
favourite... Okay. Your favourite... You were 6 when you thought that, and you just haven't updated since. I get it. What's your favourite card?
It's got to be Noble Hierarch. It's the first card I ever won with my brother in a draft. And it was the first card I evaluated as good. So I feel like at that point, Noble Hierarch was on my first top 8.
I mean, that thing is really, really good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. What is the best deck you ever played?
Oh man, I've not played many good decks in events. If I'm being honest, I mean, it's old, but I probably the Stoneforge when Stoneforge and Jace the Mind Sculptor were legal back in the day. But that was in like casual FNM, so it was probably the best deck I've ever played.
Okay, what would you think would be the best deck of all time? Full stop.
I'd probably go with the Eldrazi deck, but in standard, I mean, the Simic Oko deck was pretty brutally good.
Other than gaming, well, I think I know the actual real life answer to this. What profession would you like to try?
Definitely dietitian. I love food. I love all that stuff.
And how did you get into that?
I feel like I struggled with a lot of things physically. I didn't feel the best when I was younger because I wasn't eating the right foods. And as I went through college and I learned more and I ate better and I exercised more, I felt like I felt better. I liked myself more, and just pure positive came from it. So I figured if I could bring that change to other people, then that'd be a positive impact on society.
Awesome. Okay, if at some point you are no longer playing Magic competitively, but I'm sure you'll still be playing for fun, what do you hope people will say about you as a Magic player and as a person?
I mean, hopefully they just realize that, I don't know, I was a nice guy and I put all I had into the game, and that I was always having fun, winning or losing. It was never really a sweat. It was never a job. It was never work. It was just always something I was striving to do, striving to improve at. And I hope a lot of other people realize I think that's what you should strive to do if you want to enter the professional circuit.
Chris Kvartek, always having fun. It's been great fun having you on the Profiles. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, I love talking to you.
Martin Juza was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017, capping a long career in which Juza outworked almost all of his peers. He travelled the world for years, racking up top 8s across decades and continents. The Magic Pro League and Team CFB member has 4 career top finishes, with his first coming in 2008 in Berlin and his most recent in 2018, alongside teammates Josh Utter-Layton and Ben Stark. Juza is a true master at Limited and qualified for Worlds in 2017 as the Draft Master. Martin, thanks for being on Profiles. You always put professional tourist as your job on your top 8 profile forms. What attracts you to global travel?
That's kind of what has always made Magic fun for me. That, you know, being able to travel, and especially when there is like multiple tournaments in a row in one part of the world, we always try to find some kind of, you know, cool destination that we can visit. And we did a lot of traveling with all kinds of friends from, you know, all the world, you know, judges, pro players, like non-Magic friends just tagging along. And we did a lot of that with Shuhei, and we saw some really, really cool places. I was able to go to Easter Island. I was able to go to Fiji. I was able to go to for just non-Magic stuff, like between Magic tournaments. And just for Magic, you know, pro tours like Honolulu, Sydney, you know, Japan, like all that stuff is just whenever you get to tell that to your friends, you usually say like, yeah, I'm playing Magic, you know, it's a cool game. They're like, okay, you know, there's a lot of games or whatever. And then you're like, yeah, and I get to go to Hawaii every 3 months and Australia and all that. And at that point they go like, oh, that sounds really cool.
Where did that love of travel come from?
Our like new family sort of is like half of them are from Switzerland. So we got to spend a lot of time there. So we were like traveling a little bit between Czech Republic and Switzerland. But other than that, not really a whole lot of travel. 2009 is when I really started traveling, when I really hit like the big level that grants you the free tickets and the free hotels or whatever.
Sure.
That's where I really started traveling, and I just took full advantage.
Are you an explorer at heart? And is that part of what appeals to you in the game as well? Because it is a game that is always about exploring the next thing beyond the horizon.
Yeah, as far as traveling goes, like I always just like maybe see some kind of document. That's how I got to Easter island. I just saw this document, and it's a really cool, remote, mysterious place. And I was just like, I really have to go there one day. And it was just on the top of my bucket list for a really, really long time.
Uh-huh.
And at some point, there was a GP in Chile. So we went a little bit earlier, and we flew to Easter Island, and just explored the whole island, just rented a car. That was really cool. But as far as Magic goes, that's kind of the same thing. That's also what makes Magic fun for me. That there is a set rotation every 3 months, and there is a new meta game, and sometimes there's a new format like Pioneer, maybe like Historic on Magic Arena. Just exploring new meta games, new formats. That's the fun part about Magic.
Do those trips that you arrange around the event, like you mentioned Easter Island, Cambodia, Fiji, that aren't because I'm at the tournament, it's because after the tournament's done I get to do these, do they help you with keeping the game in perspective? Because you can say, hey, you know what? Yes, I'm struggling on Friday morning, but on Tuesday I'm going to be in Fiji.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's always something to look forward to, and like obviously there's a lot of variance in Magic, so you just have to deal with that, and sometimes you don't do well, sometimes you do. There's always going to be next tournaments in the future, so obviously you have to try to reflect on the results a little bit, and maybe if there is something you could have done better or you could have prepared better. But it's also good to not be too results oriented, because that's not the only important thing.
Okay, so let's move from getting to and from tournament venues to what happens when you get there. You are one of the great masters of Limited. You are a draft master, literally. What's the appeal of the 40 cards, Martin?
The fact that every draft is different, every deck is different, all the circumstances are different in every draft, and there's a lot of little details in draft that you have to master and you have to pay attention to be a really, really good drafter, or like a really, really good Limited player. And I really like that. Like, there's so many little things. Like when you draft, you open your first pack, you have to pick your first card, and then you pick the other 44. But there's a lot of other things that you have to pay attention to. So I'm going to pick my first card, but what is the most likely card for the person behind me to take? Because I should be paying attention to that as well. Then you should be paying attention to the cards that you're receiving from the person in front of you. So you're trying to puzzle out, okay, what are the colors that they could be possibly drafting? And then I need to make sure that I'm not in those colors. I have to be in different colors so that both of our decks end up being really good, instead of, both of us fighting for the same stuff. Then, you have to pay attention to the cards that you're passing. So maybe there are, 3 cards like Pyroclasm, for example. So when I play against a red player, I'm going to need to make sure that maybe I sideboard out my X2s. Maybe I don't try to overextend into that kind of stuff. And these like little details where, you have to play around combat tricks, and you passed something in certain direction during the draft. So that player is the most likely to have that. And you have to play around those cards and maybe completely change your deck after sideboard, and just a lot of really, really small stuff, and that every draft is different.
Okay, so let's get into some of the best draft formats, favourite formats of all time. I want to read you a list. This is the list of keywords in Time Spiral. Yeah. Buyback Echo, Flanking Flash, Flashback Kicker, Madness Morph, Shadow Split Second, Storm Suspend, Threshold. And this is one of your favourite formats of all time. You are a monster, Martin Juza.
Yeah, I think Time Spiral is my actual most favorite format of all times. It's where I played my first Limited Pro Tour, I think. I think it was 2006. Yep. I think it was in Japan, in Kobe. And I just drafted a lot. That's where I started playing on Magic Online, I think, or maybe I was already playing. But me and Ivan Flock were like playing, 24/7, just talking to each other about all the drafts and just discussing all the picks and everything. And I must have done like hundreds of drafts of that format. And I just really enjoyed it, because what you just named, all the mechanics, I think, mechanics like cycling, mechanics like buyback, echo, flashback, all that stuff is just like making the game really interesting and gives you a lot of choices. And especially when you have cycling in the format, it makes it much harder to get flooded or screwed, because, if you have cards with cycling, you're missing land drops, you can just cycle some of the more expensive cards. You can try to hit your land drops that way. If you have cycling lands, when you're getting flooded, you can just cycle those lands. So those mechanics for me make it much more fun to draft that set. And also, like, a lot of fixing allows for a lot of different stuff you can do. You can play 3-color decks, 4-color decks, 5-color decks. So a lot of a lot of those mechanics are what makes a limited format fun for me.
So let's talk about a set where there was very definitely a design for draft, which is the modern Masters sets. I know you're a big fan of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very similar to Time Spiral. I think there's a lot of cycling, basic land cycling. There is a lot of fixing in the format. There is some really cool reprints from the older sets, and I think that the R&D and play design team they just really did a really good job with that set, which was obviously made for modern players as well, to try to get some of those cool cards from the past, like Tarmogoyf and Elspeth and like all that stuff, but also for limited, they just really did a great job, because it was one of the most enjoyable set, and even the future modern master formats were all very similar to.
Here's another list of keywords: exert, embalm, aftermath, eternalize, afflict. We're in the world of magic Egypt, if you will. Amonkhet, why did you like that one so much?
Yeah, Amonkhet, I like aggressive decks in limited. I like to sort of punish people for keeping slow hands, for thinking, okay, 5 lands, a 5 drop, a 6 drop, that's okay. Maybe my opponent's going to be slow. None of that stuff from me. I like aggressive formats. I like when the creatures allow you to keep attacking with a little bit of downside, which was exactly what Exert was. It basically gave the creature a little bit of a bonus, but it wouldn't untap the next upkeep. So maybe the creature got first strike, so it was more likely that you would push for 3 more damage with it or whatever. And yeah, it was just a format that I really enjoyed. It was also a format where you could draft aggro, but you could also draft a ramp deck. You could draft a mid-range deck. You could draft a 5-color deck. There was also a lot of options. And I had a lot of success in that format too. I think I played like 3 GP finals in a row.
Right.
We might have won a team limited GP in that format or something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it was just a very enjoyable format. And I like when it allows you to not only just draft control and all these slow decks, but it also allows you to be aggressive if you want to. And there are the tools to do it.
Okay, let's talk about one of, maybe not the strongest limited deck you've ever played, but let's talk about one of the most iconic. You got to play in one of the great drafts in Magic history at Grand Prix Las Vegas, the beta draft. Tell us your memories of that.
Oh, that was so good. I flew to Vegas, and it was 8 256 person qualifiers, and each of the winners from each of the qualifiers made it into the beta draft. And I somehow ended up going 5-0 in the Swiss, then 3-0 in the top 8 draft, and I found myself qualified for the final draft. Also, Ben Stark and Luis Scott Vargas won the qualifiers as well, and
yes.
All of a sudden we ended up on a table with beta packs.
And I can honestly say one of my great memories in 20 years of Magic is that I got to put the packs onto that table, and I was literally trembling, holding these unbelievable artifacts of Magic history.
There's probably not a lot of packs from beta that even exist at this point. It's going to be a really, really small number. And we ended up grading all the cards, obviously, the collector stuff and everything.
Sure.
And the Time Walk ended up being, there's 4 attributes every card has, like corners, edges, centering, all that stuff. This ended up being 10, 9.5, 9.5, 10, when 10 is the highest.
Tell us about your deck, Martin, because dear God, it was atrocious.
Oh yeah, I had to play 23 lands because I only had 17 playables. This is back in the days where every pack had just about 5 or 6 basic lands, so you could actually, build your decks with lands because there were no land stations at tournaments. You had to go get your lands this way.
It was something to behold, and from a lifetime of global experiences, definitely one to treasure.
We also had absolutely no clue how some of the old cards worked or how some of the abilities worked. We had to ask so many times, like, how exactly does bending work? Like, if I have a creature with bending and flying, does it make them both fly? Or how am I supposed, and we just had no clue. We had to call it just so many times just to ask about these abilities.
So if I could give you one Magic set and one place in the world to draft it, what set do you take and where do you take it to?
Well, I would take beta because I would like to, open more beta packs. But if I'm being reasonable, I would take Time Spiral, and I would go back to Easter Island, and I would just sit at one of the beaches or at one of the places with a lot of the statues, and I would just do an 8-man draft with some of my friends.
Martin Juza, what's your favorite word or phrase in Magic?
My favorite phrase, when they say my name during a top 8 announcement.
Oh, nice. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Your favorite card?
Probably Brainstorm.
How come? Why?
It gives you a lot of options. There's a lot of different things you can do with Brainstorm. Sometimes you should play it on your own turn. Most of the time, you should just hold on to a fetch land to try to draw 3, shuffle the two bad ones back into your deck. And there's like a lot of different ways you should play Brainstorm. And it's a complicated card, but it's a really, really strong card.
Okay. What's the best deck that you ever played?
In Constructed, probably the Elves deck in Berlin. It was just half the games. Almost it won the game on turn 2. It was resilient. It had a good sideboard. Glimpse of Nature was a really busted card. Probably that one.
Okay. And what do you think might be the best deck of all time?
The best deck of all times? That was probably when I wasn't playing Magic. Some of the crazy combos, like back in the days when Urza Saga, for example, there was a lot of really strong decks with Tolarian Academy and Mind Over Matter, people also winning on turn 1 or 2. So probably around that time, but I probably wouldn't know exactly. I know some of the old Necro Donates decks were probably really, really powerful, especially when Kai was winning every tournament.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. In life, what excites you? What turns you on?
Game, sports, justice. That's
okay.
stuff.
What don't you like in life?
Injustice, ignorance, stupidity.
Other than gaming, if you had the tools, what profession would you like to try?
When I was younger, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I don't really know why. It just sounds like a different kind of game. Like you have to be really good at all the laws, and you have to know exactly how all the little details and everything. And I guess probably that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Martin, if at some point you're no longer playing Magic competitively, what do you hope people will say about you as a player and as a person?
That maybe I brought something to the community. Maybe they learned something from me. Maybe they enjoyed my articles. They enjoyed my stream. Maybe they approached me at a tournament to ask me about, hey, how would you build my seal? Then I would just sit down with them and I would help them, and I would easily talk to anyone and everyone at any tournament. And all my friends that maybe they enjoyed hanging out with me. We had a lot of fun going to all these cool places, and just good stuff and good memories from all the years of playing Magic.
Martin Juza, Hall of Famer, Draft Master, Travel Master. Thanks for being on Profiles.
Thanks for having me.
Marcio Carvalho has one of the most storied careers in Magic. He's got an incredible 13 top finishes, and he's widely considered to be among the best limited players in the world. He's been on fire over the past several years, and most recently finished up as the runner-up at the Magic World Championship 26. Now, one thing has eluded him: a victory, with a stack of second place finishes helping to fuel the fire. You're someone who really cares about your community, and they very much care about you. Talk to me about the support you've had throughout your career from the Portuguese community.
Well, the Portuguese community are really, really good for me. They always cheer for me. They're always trying to help me in whatever they can, and I always try to help the people that qualify for the Pro Tour or just need decks or advices. I really try to do my best to put more Portuguese on the map, because I was helped by Brazilians, Willie Edel and Tiago and Carlos. So I try to do the same in Portugal, because I know that maybe some people want to go the next step and they don't have anyone to do it.
Is it difficult, the fact that you are so clearly the best player in your country and there aren't a lot of players from your country who've had similar success?
Yeah, it waits a little that I want other people to shine. And I think there's a lot of talent in Portugal too. We have already two people on the Rivals League, and maybe we can have 2 more this year. So 4 Portuguese on a Rivals League for a small country would be like really good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I try to help too. And I have a lot of friends that I met from Magic, and my best friends are from Magic, so that helps too.
Okay, let's talk about some of your successes. And look, this is a thing that balances. You either go second is amazing or second isn't winning. And we're going to talk a lot about being second. So let's start with the World Championship in 2016 against Brian Brown-Dewin, one of the most famous matches in Magic history. Have you watched it back, and could you have won?
Yeah, I watch it back tons of times. I always watch my matches tons of times. Brian played better than me on that finals, that's for sure. He had the better deck list too for the mirror, but I think he just played better. At that moment, Brian was the clear winner. I made some mistakes. The match was maybe 2 hours long. I was exhausted and I made some mistakes. Maybe I could have won. I don't think so, but I have no regrets there.
I was going to say, I mean, because that was your biggest finish at that point, at that level, clearly. So do you at the end come away from that with, I had an amazing weekend?
Yeah, I always cherish the results and the matches I play. So I thought I had an amazing weekend, but I really want to win Worlds. That's always my goal. And placing second hurts, but it's just another tournament and you just have to think about the other one.
And now we come to the World Championship 26. Once again, you're playing someone who you know very well, someone who you in general would want success for, but not on that day. How was World Championship 26 for you?
It was great. I tested with Javier, that one. And we both find that Fires would be our best option for that Worlds. And the deck was wonderful for me. I just lost 0 games until top 4. I 2-0 my draft portion. I just beat Paulo sets in the Swiss, and then I'm already on top 4. And I think maybe I have a shot to win Worlds again. So all the thoughts come in, and I'm trying to calm myself and say, just play your best, and just we're gonna see what will happen. And then I lose to Paulo on the top 4, but it's a double elimination, so I have to beat Set. And I have insane games against Set. It goes to the wire and I win. And then I'm on the finals again. And there's like a joke between me and all the Brazilians and Portuguese that I'm cursed, that I'm always going to lose the finals, that I'm like a bye in the finals. I'm a very good player in all other areas of the game, but on the finals, I'm a bye.
That's so rude.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just a joke.
Right. Now, you mentioned that in 2016, in the World Championship final, that by sort of 2 hours into this thing, you had that epically long third game, that you were exhausted, that you were,
yes,
running on empty, as we say. How were you against Paulo? Because it certainly felt to us watching that was a very long final, a lot of drawn out games, a lot of big decisions to be made.
Yeah, I was drawn out too at the end of the game because the turns were so long and the games were long too. But against Paulo, I think I did everything I could. Only the last game, I kept us, we could say, like a gamble hand that didn't pan out and I didn't play. But I talked to Javier and he said he would have kept too, that the result doesn't matter. Of course, I didn't play and it seemed like it was a keep that maybe I should have mulligan. If I go back and I knew that I never going to draw lands, I would have mulligan, of course. But I think the keep was okay. I don't regret the keep. And I lost again. It felt like I'm not meant to be the world champion.
Do you feel like maybe it's not my time, or are you still really ambitious to get back there yet again, and if necessary, finish second, but believe that you are ready to finish first?
Yeah, I'm ready to finish first. It's really hard to win a tournament. There's a lot of variance, there's a lot of matchups, there's a lot of players. So I'm always joking that I play second, but it's okay because I have been doing, like you said, a lot of things right to always be there, always be on the finals, always be on the highest stakes of Magic history. So I just try to play my best always and try to win. It wasn't this time. It wasn't in 2016. Maybe it's going to be in 2021. I'm sure I'm going to get it sometime, but I just have to wait.
Would you swap? Would you swap all the seconds for one first?
No, no. I think I prefer to be always on top than just win once and never be there anymore. I think it's more consistent to always be on top and always be on the finals than just win a Worlds and then you never do anything again.
A difficult question, with apologies. I'm sure you understand that for some part of the Magic community, they don't want you to win because of things that have happened in the past. Are you trying to win them over? Do you care about the reputation that you have had in the past? Do you want people to see that you are playing fair and playing clean and winning and deserving to win? Does that matter to you?
Yeah, it matters a little. I care that I always try my best to show that I change to those people, but I can't change their opinion if they don't want to change. I just have to play my game and I just try my best to do it. But I'm not always thinking, no, I have to try to change those people. The people that know me and my friends that know me, they can vouch for me, so sure. I don't need to.
And so, looking forward, you want to stay at the top of the game, obviously. But if there was one title to win, it would be Worlds, yes?
Yes, for sure, Worlds.
So, Marcio, you are one of the best limited players of all time. You are the original draft master, indeed, at the pro level. And you've come up with 3 of your favourite draft formats of all time. Let's start right at the top. Where do you begin?
I would begin with Ravnica, City of Guilds.
All right, so we're in sort of 2006, 2007, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Okay, what is this set? What's so great about it?
It's a multicolor set. I like multicolor sets to begin with, and it's the first time that bounce lands come around. And it changed the limit a little until people understood that bounce lands were a really high pick because it was card advantage in itself. You play the land, you bounce the land, it gave 2 mana. So you could effectively play less lands. So at the beginning, people were underestimating that card, and I could just win a lot more than I should because I wouldn't pick the lands and I would pick the good cards like the gold cards, the Selesnya cards, the Dimi cards, and then I will the bounce lands. And it really changed the game there.
Do you like sets where a lot is undiscovered for a long time? Do you want a set that people are, in a sense, making mistakes 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks into the format?
Yeah, I love those sets, and I love sets that you can find everything, but then you can return to the beginning, and the decks that were good on the beginning are good again because the meta is evolving for people playing all the late game decks, and then you go to aggro again. And
now this is difficult for some people to understand because it's very clear if you see the top 10 decks at a pro tour in a constructed setting what the best decks are and that everyone's playing aggro, everyone's playing mid-range and so on. But the idea of a limited metagame is a little harder for a lot of people to grasp, especially newer players. So can you just talk a bit about what you really mean by that, a limited metagame?
Let's imagine a pro tour when everyone says black is the best color. And black is indeed the best color. But if everyone goes into the table and wants to draft black, there's already 4 to 5 black decks. So even if it's the best color, it's not going to perform as it should because 5 people are trying to do the deck. And then you have to understand if 5 people are trying to do black, what could be black? Let's imagine white is the worst color. But if you are the only white person in the table, or maybe 2 persons, your deck, it's going to be a lot better because you're going to have all the rares and all the uncommons open, and you can trying to mash your cards to do well against all those clunky decks because all the all person played black, so their power level are worse and your power level are better there.
All right, let's move on to your second set, and this is Rise of the Eldrazi.
Yeah, Rise of Eldrazi, it's a set that really stood up to me because you could do just insane things. Your drafts are more like constructed decks than drafts. For example, the red-green, you could have as early as 4-turn Ulamog Crusher, 8/8 Annihilate 2 in a draft format. And it wasn't that difficult. You could just go like turn 2 Overgrown Betamot. Okay, it's a 0/4 that gives mana for each defender creature you have. And then you go another 0/4, and then you have 4 mana on the walls and 4 mana on the lands, and you just play an 8/8, for example. But it was, all the ramp cards were really good, like Nest Invader, the 2 mana 2/2 that puts a 0/1 that you can sacrifice to give a colorless mana. Kozilek Predator, a 4 mana 3/3 that makes 2 0/1s. So it was really easy to ramp to the big stuff.
One of the things that Magic is so good at is making its players care about the cards. And you talk about those cards like you really love those cards.
Yeah. I really loved like all the formats, but there's some that stood up to me, and this was one of them too, because the sequences were so good in the game.
And also, that Rise of Eldrazi, I was thinking, like blue-white, was that the leveling deck?
Yeah, the leveling deck was really good too. You had, if you open Training Grounds, that's a rare, but everyone thought it was really bad at the beginning. You could just go crazy because all your level ups costed 1. It costs 2 less colorless, so it would be 1 or 0, and then you just go level up all the creatures into some huge thing. And you had Vener the Teacher. It was a bull guy, 2/2 bull guy that puts 2 levels in all the creatures. So you just go crazy with the level ups too. And those 2 archetypes for me was the 2 best archetypes in Rise of Eldrazi.
Okay, and for your third pick, we go back to the City of Guilds. This time it's Guilds of Ravnica. Why did you choose that?
Again, I really loved Guilds of Ravnica because everyone thought that Boros and Dimir was the 2 best guilds. And they were, again, if they were open, they were. And for example, at that Pro Tour, I just drafted Selesnya and Golgari, namely 2 of the worst guilds.
Right.
But I really think Selesnya and Golgari were really good. And the question was, Selesnya could do the same thing as Boros, but you could convoke creatures like Rosemont Centaur, and Illerhawk was better with the Beetle that puts a counter on Illerhawk, and you just smash them. And Golgari, I had a plan that I would always go on the draw. Only against Boros I would be on the play, but against every other deck I would go on the draw, because Golgari is a deck that could drown out the game with the Ravenous red card, 1/1 discard 1. That's better on the draw because they have less cards to discard. You just go like Severed Strengths to kill all the creatures.
How do you go about your knowledge of a draft format?
I think it's important to know like pick orders, like the important commons and commons, but I think it's a misconception of a lot of people that, for example, let's say that Luis Scott Vargas puts an article saying like all the cards on the set, and this is a 5, this is a 4. It's very good. Luis Scott Vargas is a very good player, and he knows, of course. But in the vacuum, I can say that maybe you are on a second pack and you open a card that Luis Scott Vargas gave a 4.5. And there's another card that Luis Scott Vargas gave, let's say, a 3. But in your deck, that 4.5 card, it's not really a 4.5. Your deck needs the 3-point card. And the 3-point card goes up in value to maybe a 4.5. And the 4.5 card goes to a 3, because that's not what your deck needs. You can't be stuck in only this is the card that I need. You need to see your deck and see what cards would mesh better with your deck.
Marcio, what's your favorite word or phrase in Magic?
Good game.
Your favorite color?
Green.
Favorite card?
Wasteland.
Wastelands. Why?
It was the first card that I made top 8 on a GP.
Okay. What's the best deck you ever played?
Mardu Vehicles, Pro Tour the Revolt.
And what do you think is the best deck ever?
Pro Tour Paris Cobblades.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. I like that. Okay, what excites you in life? What turns you on?
High stake matches. I really love to be on the top of the game playing the highest stakes matches ever.
Okay.
So that's addiction for me.
What don't you like?
Having no goals, like being around doing nothing. I really like to put goals on myself and try to achieve them.
Other than gaming, if you had the ability, what profession would you like to try?
Singer or an actor.
Awesome. Has that always been true? Has that been like a childhood dream?
Actor, yes. Singer, I just sing very badly, but I like to sing.
Awesome, that's great. Last question. If at some point you're no longer playing competitive Magic, what do you hope people will say about you as a player and as a person?
That I really helped a lot of people, a lot of friends, and that I was one of the best players ever. That's what I hope.
Marcio Carvalho, thanks for being here on Profiles.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
Many thanks to Marcio Carvalho, Chris Kvartek, and Martin Juza, and of course to you for watching this episode of Profiles. If you want to watch more episodes of this and other exciting Magic the Gathering esports content, please subscribe.